Thank you. My name is Emily Gerbrandt. I'm a PhD candidate in sociology and criminology, and I'm also an organizing member with Winnipeg Police Cause Harm. I'm here today to speak in regards to the proposed capital project for body-worn cameras and digital evidence management, which would allocate an additional $6.8 million in public money to the Winnipeg Police Service. I want to begin by acknowledging the context in which this proposal arises. Statistics Canada data indicates that only 1 in 3 Manitobans, quote unquote, have strong trust in their police department. Winnipeg boasts one of the highest proportions of budgets spent on policing, as we know, in this country. And according to Angus Reid polling at 36%, we have one of the largest groups of residents in Canada who would like to see that budget cut. I speak today not merely as a researcher, but as a community member who believes in this city and has hope for its future. I speak also as a member of the 36% and counting. Contrary to popular belief, body cameras are not a solution to Winnipeggers' lack of trust in police, and they're very real safety concerns because body cameras do not actually reduce police violence or the systemic culture of racism that's embedded in policing. I hope to make clear in these few short minutes how body cams are non-objective. They're a technological response to a systemic problem, and that by implementing body cameras, the only thing we serve to do is expand an already bloated police budget, as has already been admitted in this meeting. Technology is commonly proposed as a lifeboat to save us from many systemic and plaguing issues that we face. In the case of police, we know that this comes in the way of unnecessary use of force, racism, and extrajudicial executions by police officers. Body cameras are thought to address police violence by serving as tools that police can use to better collect video evidence necessary to hold themselves accountable, to create better transparency when they unnecessarily use force or do public harm. However, as we've already heard today, studies across North America do not show consistent evidence to this effect, or that body cameras reduce police violence or improve oversight and transparency. In fact, a 2019 study in the Criminology and Public Policy Journal looked at over 70 other studies into body-worn cameras and found that the technology had statistically insignificant impacts on police and citizen behavior. And initial evidence more locally that we can turn to from Calgary Police Service, although boasting headlines that they've seen an 11% reduction in use of force complaints since implementing the technology, failed to really live up to other expectations when further reading into their 2020 evaluation report also shows that overall complaints against officers have actually increased, and that initial studies that found significant reductions in use of force incidents were not replicated in following studies, which found non-significant or no change in use of force. Further, the prevalence of officers discharging their firearms did not change with the implementation of body-worn cameras, and the use of lateral vascular neck restraint actually increased after their implementation. Lastly, the report concluded insufficient data exists thus far to determine whether evidence quality and court outcomes are improved or the effects of body-worn cameras on court outcomes or evidence quality. There's also, of course, the pilot project in Montreal that found body cameras have little impact on police interventions. And further, a Harvard study found that cameras did not meaningfully change police behavior on a wide range of outcomes. We're also reminded that Derek Chauvin's body camera did not prevent him from killing George Floyd. And we may recall that it was civilian footage, not Chauvin's body camera, that captured the evidence that led to vocal public outcry and that assisted in Chauvin's eventual conviction. Tools like body cameras have never been objective instruments, as any camera. Their use and misuse lies in the intention behind the hands that uses them. Counteractively, the ability to hold police officers accountable through body cameras is often dependent upon access to information and video footage protocols that are set by the very same police departments that employ officers that are under scrutiny. Even when departmental policy dictates that officers must keep their body cameras on at all times during a call for service, police officers have still been caught turning their cameras off. This was exemplified by the Baltimore Police Force. As well, claims that body cameras improve transparency are undermined by systemic problems in the institution of policing itself. Exemplified when police continue to hold discretionary power over access to footage and camera use protocols, as well as their unfettered ability to rely on their colleagues for protection. In fact, police officers and supervisors in Albuquerque, New Mexico, were caught altering and deleting body camera footage of a police shooting in 2014 in order to protect a fellow officer. Arguments that body cameras will allow us to hold police accountable overlook the very culture of policing itself and the known blue wall of silence that exists. Technology such as body cameras can't address that expectation of loyalty behind the badge. As well, body cameras are not attuned to improve accountability in the myriad ways police have betrayed the public's trust that don't occur on our streets. As we are all aware of Winnipeg police leaking private information of a city councillor in July 2020, body cameras are not equipped to prevent these types of indiscretions. Questions can also be raised about the legitimacy of WPS's claim that body cameras are a progressive approach in committing to greater police accountability and transparency with the public, when in 2020, the Canadian Association of Journalists publicly condemned the Winnipeg police after Constable Rob Carver interfered with a journalist procuring a video from a witness to a police shooting. This came after a similar incident in 2015 when WPS illegally confiscated a camera and footage belonging to Aboriginal People's Television Network. If we want to improve police accountability and transparency, I must question then, why do we tolerate this pattern of police interference with civilian and journalist video footage? The WPS budget already sits at over $3.2 million before capital-related expenditures, which we know is 1/3 of the city's total annual budget approximately. By greenlighting a body cam project amidst a dearth of evidence that they improve policing or increase transparency would only further bloat this already overblown police budget. Whereas we have seen libraries forced to cut back operating hours and transit lines reduce service due to budget rollbacks, body cameras fail to improve access to public spaces or educational resources or active transit that are actually necessary, things necessary for Winnipeg to be a healthy, safe, and thriving place to live. We cannot fundamentally fix policing and the problems it faces through new technology because the problems that we seek to address are systemic and not technological. It is particularly ironic to consider funding for body cameras as a solution to issues of police brutality and lack of accountability when these very same issues are a direct consequence of growing police power, presence, and surveillance in Winnipeggers' lives. And as we reckon provincially and nationally with the discovery of mass graves at Brandon, Kamloops, and other sites across Canada, we also must question municipally how allocating over $6 million to a police surveillance device advances Indigenous justice or works towards implementing the TRC and national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls calls to action. The budgetary decisions that we make now are a direct reflection of our city's priorities. And at the very least, if WPS desires body cameras, it is exceptionally untenable to expect Winnipeg taxpayers to pay extra for it. Thank you for your time.
Questions?